Hello, my name is Bill Haley for Haley 2024, The Movement's Government Reform Ideas. And this video is going to be on competitive school boards. I've done other videos on this, but I just want to put it all together on a quick video. Hopefully about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes to give you a full understanding of what competitive school boards are. So it can be a small reform or it can be a complete separation. So competitive school boards having a complete separation, finances and everything, or just keeping some things together, separating other things where school boards get to control policy, but not so much of the finances. So how much we change, any change is going to be profound, but having complete separation is going to be the best. But we can go part way there too. So I don't want the best to be the enemy of the good here. The small reform is still profound. Okay, the reform starts out with the creation of 12 state school boards. So in every state, you create 12 state school boards. Then let's talk about a little bit quick how that can be done through the democratic process and elected officials. So current elected officials, both city and state, get to appoint school board members, and that can be worked out in a lot of different ways. There's new appointed members start to group into 12 school boards with different educational philosophies. So conservatives and liberals will be appointing different type of people. So 12 different types with a lot of city and state elected officials, House delegate members, state senate, governors, city councils, mayors, all of those people, even current elected school board members get to jump onto these school boards. So all 12 school boards write up their educational philosophy. So they do group up. And then all parents select a state school board based on educational philosophy. And for the older kids, higher teenage kids, high school age kids, they get to pick what school board they want to. There's some parent involvement in there too, but parents definitely for the kindergarten through 8th grade or so, but 9th through 12th, the student gets to have a lot more say in it, in which way they want to go. And they're going to be picking based off educational philosophy, whether they want to put an emphasis on sports, music, different things, whether they want to deal with the controversial issues in a more liberal way or a more conservative way, sex ed, CRT, all the different controversial issues, vaccine mandates and the like. So all you need is 5% of the parents to group together and they get their own school board. And you don't want it over 20%. If you do get over 20%, they just basically separate with very similar philosophies, and then they have their own school boards. School boards may choose to have a local component, or they may not. So you choose your school board based off whether they have local components or not. Most will probably choose to have some local components, and others one will have more of a local component aspect. So that's part of your choice. School boards may be faith friendly. So some may be Catholic friendly, some may be Protestant friendly, some may be Jewish friendly, Muslim friendly, all friendly, all faith friendly, but one will be secular. So faith friendly means you still do your academics, and that's primary, but you can bring in Catholic teachings or Jewish teachings or Protestant teachings. You can teach from the Bible. Those are not forbidden, or they're forbidden now. So faith friendly does not mean you're out of academics. Not far from it. Academics still has to be there. One school board must remain secular. Faith friendly means academics is still top priority. Multiple school boards would likely incorporate most private schools. So the 10 to 15, sometimes up to 20% of students who are both homeschool and private schools, they still will be joining in. So some school boards will be primarily the current Catholics or Catholic churches or the current Protestant schools with that bent, because they're going to be faith friendly. So a school board those schools will be so dominant in the voting of the membership that they will be able to say, you're going to leave us alone. We're going to get the funding just like everybody else, but you're going to leave us alone. We're going to do what we're going to do. and there's going to be better benefits there for them as well. Now, private schools don't have to belong, but most likely they will, because they will have that total autonomy, and they're going to be able to control those school boards that they're in. So I think that's going to be work itself out. So as long as you have academic success, you can stay as a school board. If you start going way off to the board, going into just teaching the religion part of it and not teaching the math and the English and the history and the like, then there's going to be problems. You're not going to be able to be a school board at that point. We have a system for that, a rating system for that. We'll get to that a little bit later. Multiple school boards would likely incorporate most homeschoolers with the agreement that they control themselves as long as there are academic successes. So dealing with the dollars there, we'll deal with that in a little bit, or there's a lot of ways to deal with those dollars. Those dollars can go into educational savings accounts for future use, or go into an educational account to help pay down some of the taxes, because they are paying taxes. So if you're going to do it all on your own, that dollar amounts will be used as a tax account where you can pay down some of the taxes, or many different methods of if a parent wants to really economize and not utilize the state dollars, they can have those dollars go into the account and pay off state taxes, federal taxes, local taxes, whatever taxes they want to. Maybe even reimbursement for some income tax, sales taxes. There's a lot of different ways it can happen. But hopefully we're going to go in a different direction soon anyway. So let's keep on going. Every school board would have to buy or rent school buildings or classroom space. So the buildings are going to be a big issue. How they deal with it, there's a lot of different ways. But my preference would be every school board would have to buy or rent out, and most likely they'll rent out for a while until they figure out how much classroom space they're going to need, and the money paying off government debt, not just school debt, but government debt overall, especially states are going to take over, in my opinion, the Social Security debt that we have, and that way the federal government's not going to be involved in that anymore in a couple of my reforms I have going on. Anyway, so that best way to deal with money situation on the buildings is to actually have school boards bid on, or not just bid on, but pay for and buy school classroom space, or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of different ways that can be done, and we can go over how one school building can have several school boards or schools within that building. So let's say a school with a class with 100 classrooms, and somebody says, one school board says, I want 20 of the rooms. Time in the gymnasium, time in the cafeteria, and the like, time on the fields, and the like, and 20% of the buses, stuff like that. So there's ways to do that. Or most likely, a lot of school boards are going to come together and have a bus system similar to what it is now, but they can make that work, where not only people from the same school board has to go on that same bus, the students from the same school board have to go on that same bus. We can incorporate a lot of that. Most people, their issue are not how the kids get to school or that school bus. It's more the classroom teachings and the like. The state would likely rent out classrooms, buses, gyms, fields, and equipment for several years. I was talking about that. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Many school boards would cooperate and share buildings, equipment, teachers, and other staff. So every school board doesn't have to have their own janitor. You can share a janitor if you're sharing a building. Now, some school boards are going to take over the full building, and they're obviously going to have their own staff. But people who share buildings might be able to share that same English teacher, because 2 or 3 or maybe 4 or 5 different school boards, they agree on this is a good English teacher and this is good curriculum for that English, but they want to teach that math differently, or they want to teach that history differently. So a lot of different ways to do that. So a lot of free market benefits are going to come into that, because every school board is going to be able to cooperate with other school boards for the benefit of financial benefits and efficiency and productivity. School boards would be able to change schedules and hours. So right now, I believe it is 180 days for 6 hours a day. That is the requirement for K through 12. So it might be a little bit different than that, but we're going to go away from that. As long as academics are done, there's models out there that are being used right now that are twice a week, where the kids are home for 3 days a week, and that can work out just well. So you can pay for the teachers who are twice a week. Let's say Monday, Thursday. Then that teacher can also do a Thursday, Friday class, and maybe a Wednesday, Saturday class. So they have different students, and the students do have to work at home, or more than have to work, however the system works out. So there's a lot of ways it could be done. We don't have to be stuck in the 180 days, 6 hours a day routine. And we don't have to be stuck with the summer being off. We can have a lot of different systems, however you want to do it. Every school board sets its own teacher standards and hires staff. So I want to get rid of the non-discrimination rules for this one dramatically. Now, obviously, I don't want to get rid of it black and white. That's not a big issue. And I don't think many people will try to not do the discrimination based off of that. But for religious reasons, yes. A school board that's faith-friendly to Protestants, they should be able to hire based off of somebody's faith declaration and faith, living out that faith. Same thing with Jewish or Catholic or whatever religion you want out there. And a couple other reasons too. You want to have that discernment. Discrimination is usually looked at as a negative. Discernment is usually looked at as a positive. So we want that discernment, the ability to do the discernment, and the school boards will have that ability to do that. So we don't want to do, for negative reasons, the discrimination, the black and the white. Obviously, I don't think that's going to be an issue, but we can keep that one and maybe a few other ones in there. But on the most part, the values that a teacher has is going to be paramount in whether they get hired on or let go in a school situation. So a teacher should go with the school board that matches more of their values, their personal values, so they're not going to run afoul from that. So I think that can work out with proper discernment and proper discernment there. Okay, school boards would be able to address controversial issues, again, CRT, sex ed, history, there's a whole sorts of vaccine mandates and mask mandates, and there's a lot more in there that how you deal with a lot of issues. Now, obviously, if you have 5 schools within one building, there might have to be coming together and seeing what the policy is for the full building when it needs to be. But obviously, if you're CRT, that's going to be classroom space. Mask mandates out there. Maybe you can have cafeteria at a different time where one person has mask mandate. 20% of the kids can go there without the mask. Then the other school boards, they have a different time for cafeteria, and they do it differently. So it can be worked out, but the school boards will make those decisions, and you choose your school board based off many of the decisions. So if you have about 12 different choices and you get to pick that one, you're going to be able to pick one pretty close to your values. Every school board sets its own policy on sex ed, CRT, discipline, mask, and vaccine mandates, among other controversial topics. Talked about that a little bit. School boards may charge their members extra or economize and deposit money into their students' educational accounts for the future. So I talked about that briefly, and this is where it gets in. Do you really want to do a major school choice separation, or do you want to do a mild one? If you do a mild one, this one will be just mild, where the money follows the student, yes, to the school board, but then maybe you can give a little bit money back to the educational accounts, but most of it has to be spent there. But if you go full separation, Then you get into where the school boards are actually starting to charge through long-term loans. Let's read this one real quick. School boards will transition over time to funding current expenses with long-term loans of parents of K through 12-year-olds, not K through 12 grade, 12 through 12-year-olds. So at the youngest kids before the teenage years, and the older teenage students. So older teenage students can make an agreement to have their education paid for now, and then have long-term loans as kind of like what the education taxes are right now. Because what you're doing is the state, localities, whatever, the government's paying for education up front, and then through the rest of your life, you have a very heavy education tax. I mean, we're spending a lot of money per student. We're collecting a lot of education taxes per year from a lot of different places, but piling it up, it's a lot of money. Well over $10,000 per, probably about $1,000 a month, probably $10,000 to $12,000 a year per household is coming out from education taxes out of every household on average. Obviously, the rich are paying more, but you pay for that when you do business with a rich person. So in a real way, you are paying taxes. It's coming out of every household. So that's another economic lesson. But let's keep on going. But hopefully we can go there. Where now let's go to the next screen so I can talk about that too. We can wrap that one up. Current school taxes will only be for those that went through the public school system before this change as a teen or parents of K through 12-year-olds that were paid for by taxes. So current education taxes will stick around to pay long-term debt from our government because they had their education paid for by the government, and so they have to pay back throughout their lifetime, just like they do now, because they had their education. So private school people who who did not have their education paid for, they're going to be exempt from this. Then anybody who starts doing long-term loans after the switch, they're not going to do education tax because they're going to be paying back their long-term student loans. So for a time, 20, 30, 40 years at the max, we'll have some people paying education taxes, and that's just going to be paying for long-term government debt, mainly coming from Social Security and the like, where we have so much debt in our country. Not to mention the $31 trillion debt plus the unfunded liabilities is what I'm talking about. And I want all of that to go back to the states. That's another reform, but let's keep on going. The entire college system can follow a similar structure. I know it doesn't look like it can, but obviously we can change a lot of different things and the long-term loans and the like. But we're going to get rid of the state funding of colleges. We're going to go more towards student loans and the like. We can have a school board. We want competitive school boards for college as well. So if you want the current system or you want a new system. And with those new systems, you're going to have new ways of getting degrees and licensing boards. When you go to a competitive government system, we're going to have different ways of different licensing organizations. Each education CRA will have its own licensing boards, and where every let's say you want to get into finance, that finance board will do for certain finance obligations, being a CPA and as for accounting or whatever. Let's say you want to go through medical, there would be healthcare boards that will give you licenses, competitive healthcare boards. So it's important to understand how that would work. The rating system, now I haven't talked about the rating system, but it's a competitive rating system, will address low academic achievement. So if a child is not getting academically taught, then the rating system can come in. Representative agencies, these are representatives, full governmental systems, and they can address the situation. So they can find out why a child is not achieving. First of all, they find out if the child is achieving, why they're not achieving, and if the competitive educational government cannot put them on a correct path, then the rating system can maybe force a pathway on them to a certain degree that's shown success. So that's another check on a educational school board that is maybe not doing the best, is letting people fall through the cracks too much. So a rating system, if let's say you have Down syndrome and you're doing the best you possibly can, the student's doing the best you possibly can, then that can be addressed as well, or being accountable for that. So, and it will also deal with abuse and corruption, because with everything there could be abuse and corruption. You can probably figure out 1,000 different ways in the next 10 minutes how there could be abuse and corruption. The rating system will have people looking at every aspect of this, giving high quality information to the parents, to the students, to everybody, to the general public. And if you fall below a certain rating where there's abuse, there's corruption, and the like, then the rating system has real governmental power to deal with that. The rating system would address all issues, giving parents information from many perspectives. Again, competitive rating system means different perspectives. Competitive means you join a rating system for education and you like how they are going to rate and inform. And then somebody else does it, liberal, conservative, middle of the road. You have 12 different groupings and you're going to get different perspectives. The answer to almost every question within this would be the parent school board will decide. The competitive school board, the school board that you choose for your child, or as a teenager you choose, however that you do it, they will make that decision. And then maybe they'll have to cooperate with another school board. And another answer to that is the rating system. If a parent does not like how their school board decided, you're not stuck there. You can move from school board to school board. There might be needing to be agreement to stay there a year, 2 years, but there's a way out. But for planning purposes and everything, you don't want people moving around too easily. There might be some penalties for leaving too early. But a school board, you can leave your school board and go to another. So that's important. Okay. A lot to say, 22-minute video here. There's a lot to say about this. A lot more on my website, a lot of blogs on my website regarding many aspects of this. Go through each aspect on my website and look at each aspect and see how it works. Until the next video.